Hi everyone, my name is Faith Simmons, and today I'll be presenting on one of the most influential figures in educational psychology. Vygotsky is known for shaping how we understand the way children learn and think. He introduced powerful ideas like the sociocultural theory and the zone of proximal development, or as we know, ZPD. In this presentation, I'll share about his life, his major theories, who influenced his work, and how his ideas still shape how us teachers teach today, including how they connect to my own experience as an educator. By the end of this presentation, you will see why Vygotsky's work still matters so much in classrooms around the world. Vygotsky was born on November the 17th, 1896, in Orsha, a small town in what is now Belarus. He was raised in a large Jewish family with 8 children. His father worked as a banker, and his mother was a teacher, and she played a huge part in his love for learning. She often read with him, talked with him at home, and encouraged him to ask questions and explore big ideas. He grew up during a time of great change in Russia, so his childhood experience shaped how he viewed people, society, and education. Even at a young age, he was fascinated by how people think and communicate. His curiosity would eventually lead him to study how children develop mentally and socially. Education and early career. As a young man, Vygotsky was an outstanding student. He attended Moscow State University, where he studied law, but his real interests were in philosophy, literature, and psychology. He was a deep thinker and wrote essays about how art, language, and culture shaped the human mind. After graduating, he began working as a teacher and also taught psychology at local shops. Vygotsky got married to Rosa, and together they had 2 daughters. His family life grounded him and gave him even more interest in child development. He wanted to understand how children learn, grow, and think from a psychological point of view. Around this time, he began writing about education and human development, and people quickly noticed his creative way of connecting ideas from many fields, not just psychology, but also language, literature, and sociology. His career as an educational psychologist. Vygotsky officially began his career in psychology during the 1920s, working at the Institute of Psychology in Moscow. This was a time when the Soviet Union was trying to improve education for all children, and he wanted to understand how to make learning more effective. His most important idea was that learning is social. He believed children don't just learn by exploring on their own, they learn best when they interact with other people, parents, teachers, and peers. He called this approach the sociocultural theory. It means that culture we grow up in, the language we speak, the traditions we follow, and the people around us all shape the way we think and learn. He said that teachers and adults play a powerful role in helping children grow because they introduce new ideas and model how to think through problems. One of his most famous contributions is the zone of proximal development, often called the ZPD. The ZPD is the space between what a learner can do independently and what they can do with help. In other words, it's that sweet spot where learning is most effective, it's not too easy, but it's also not too hard. He said that teachers should guide students through this zone using a process called scaffolding. Scaffolding means giving students support like hints, examples, or even modeling for them. and slowly removing their help as they become more confident. This idea completely changed the way teachers approach instruction. Instead of expecting all students to learn the same way or at the same pace, teachers began focusing on meeting students where they are and helping them take the next step forward. Vygotsky didn't come up with all his ideas in isolation. He was inspired by many thinkers before him. One of his biggest influences was Jean Piaget, who also studied how children think and learn. She focused more on the individual child stages of development, while Vygotsky believed learning was more social and cultural. Even though they had different views, their work complemented each other and helped shape modern education. Vygotsky was also influenced by Karl Marx's ideas about how society shapes people's lives. From Marx, he learned that human development is deeply connected to social and cultural experiences. Later, his work inspired famous psychologists such as Jerome Bruner and Albert Bandura, who expanded on his theories and applied them to teaching and learning in the classroom. Later, life and death. Unfortunately, Vykotski's life was cut short. He struggled with tuberculosis, a serious lung disease, for much of his adult life. The, Despite his illness, he continued to write, teach, and research until his death in 1934 at only 37 years old. At the time, his work wasn't widely known outside of Russia. Many of his writings were unpublished or banned due to the strict Soviet government. But in the 1960s, decades after his death, his work was translated into English and shared around the world. Once his theories reached the Western world, educators and psychologists immediately recognized how groundbreaking they were. Today, he's considered one of the most important pioneers in educational psychology. His influence on current teaching practices. Vygotsky's influence can be seen in almost every modern classroom. His concept of scaffolding helped teachers guide students step by step, giving just enough help to build confidence and independence. Teachers also use the ZPD when planning lessons, making sure the work is challenging enough to promote growth, but not so hard that students give up. His ideas are also the foundation for collaborative learning, like group projects, peer tutoring, and class discussions. These activities allow students to learn from one another, share ideas, and develop critical thinking skills. Vygotsky's influence on current teaching practices. As an elementary music teacher, I see Vygotsky's theory come to life every single day. In my classroom, students learn through social interaction, by singing together, they're always moving together, and creating music as a team. When I teach new songs or rhythms, I use scaffolding, starting with me modeling the rhythm, then guiding the class to repeat it, and finally letting them perform on their own. This process shows how learning moves through the zone of proximal development. Vygotsky's theory reminds me that students grow best when they are supported and encouraged to explore, not just told what to do. Music becomes a space for teamwork, communication, and creativity, just as he believed learning should be. Why teachers should know his work. It's important for all teachers to understand his work because it helps us see learning as a journey that's built on connection and growth. His theories remind us that students learn best in environments where they feel supported, heard, and challenged. He taught that mistakes are part of learning and that guidance should always be patient and flexible. By understanding the ZPD, teachers can make learning meaningful for every child, not just the ones who learn quickly. His work continues to shape teacher training programs, curriculum designs, and even how classrooms are structured today. My bibliography, my sources I used was Vygotsky, Mind in Society, Vygotsky and Pedagogy, Vygotsky's Psychology, and the list goes on. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. His ideas about learning through social interaction, scaffolding, and the zone of proximal development continue to shape how teachers teach and how students grow. Vygotsky showed us that learning isn't just about facts. It's not just about what you know. It's about building those relationships, that culture, and that communication every day in your classroom. And as teachers, we should carry his ideas forward every single day when we guide, encourage, and inspire our students to reach their full potential. Thank you for watching.